Opposing Gloves here, and this is the 25th video in the Kontakt from the Ground Up tutorial series, and that's, for me at least, it's the farthest this will match the massive series, and we're going to go way past 25 videos. That's pretty cool. Today we're going to be talking about the loop functions in Kontakt. So here's a Kontakt. We have our flute right here. Let's load it up, and we're going to do some drum loops as well, like we talked about in the last one. And you see, if we come down here to our grid, we've got our grid set up, whatever, you know, and in this particular one, it's not all that important. We're going to talk about some advanced concepts on sample looping. So let's go back like 20 years when a gigabyte of space was like, whoa, that's like, whoa, oh man, that's a lot of space. Holy crap. So when let's say you wanted to sample something like a piano or something, but you have these outrageously long decay times, and you just don't have enough space on your hard drive to deal with that. So they came up with a few observations. The first is that the beginnings of the waveforms are the hardest to replicate. They are the toughest to get just right because there's just so much complexity going on, especially like with the flute. There's like the breath and all these things. Of course, we completely overlook that. One reason why our flute's not like the greatest realistic sounding one. But they also noticed that usually during this sustained phase, so there's the attack and then it decays a little bit and then it sustains, and it goes, as you can see here, into a pretty regular waveform. It stays consistent and it goes that way and all the way until the release. It does not want to let me zoom out. All the way till the release. So that's so weird. Why won't it let me zoom out? There we go. Geez, that was weird. So what they would do is they would loop this section. So they'd figure out, oh yeah, we'll let the sustain go, and then we'll loop this one section. And that is the basis, but setting up this loop can be quite tricky, but not with Kontakt. They've come up with some incredible ways to do this. So we have our sample loop option. Make sure it's on. And then each loop you can turn on and off by toggling, and they'll turn light blue, indicating there's a loop there. The one you have selected is yellow, and then no loops are dark blue. And if you hit the power button, they'll each turn off individually. This is for the specific loop you have selected. So we're on loop 1 right now, and you'll see that as we add more loops, the previous ones turn, they kind of turn, as you can see. You can't see them, but they're indicated that they're there. So that is very useful. We're not going to talk about multiple loop, having like 8 loops in the same sample quite yet. That's a little more down the road. But you can turn them on and off doing that, and you have 8 of your options here. You can adjust the start point of where your loop is, and we talked about the snap settings in the previous tutorials, and you can adjust the end lengths, but there are some even cooler options. We've also talked about so start, and they have this fade option. This is in milliseconds, so it'll crossfade between wherever your loop ends to wherever the loop starts. So it'll fade this out and this in so that you can't hear a difference if you've got like clicks and stuff. That's one way of dealing with things. You could just turn up your X fade. This will not work in certain source module modes. I can't remember which ones, and I'm not going to go around trying to mess with them. But if it's not on, check this. Also make sure your grid option can throw some of this off occasionally. I believe that's just with placing the loop though. Plus we've covered these in detail. So now if something does go wrong, now you know what you're touching. So we also have this loop edit option. Now this is cool. So right now we have the ending right here. And let's say we don't want an X fade. We want our loop to just be perfect, man. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, you use your loop edit option. We'll take this end point and this beginning point and put them right next to each other. And we can adjust the loop like that. So if we turn it on, bang. So this is the this is the end, I believe, of our point, and this is the beginning. And you can see in dark gray, this is the sample as it would have continued on, and this is the loop as we currently have it. So the way we currently have it, it kind of has a sharp increase. It'd be a little weird. So you can actually adjust this by moving your loop region up and down, and you can try and get it to naturally follow. You want it to follow the yellow curve. because that is what our loop will sound like. And the more smooth you can get this transition, like that's pretty close. So if we match it up just right, we can change this. And we might want to use the arrow keys for this. And bang, that's pretty exact right there. And so our before and after. So if we hit this note, and I have no idea what note, oh, it's the first one. Okay. So if we hit this, and our loop should sound pretty solid now. You can barely hear the little, like you can hear go, like because of the volume change, but you cannot hear a click. Versus if we were to move this like something crazy, we will definitely hear it now. You hear that click? And so I'll play it one more time in case you missed it. So that is just the coolest freaking option for this. So you don't even need the X fade if you don't want to. You could be like hardcore and do it this way. It takes a little more time, but I think the results are well worth it. I mean, just look at that. It's beautiful. And to exit it, you just click the exit, and now your loop is so set up. This is when I would recommend somehow locking your loop. I actually don't know how to do that. Man, it would really stink if you moved it after that. Yeah. So we're not going to obviously keep it. And the X fade, usually it's just a faster option, and I like it. It sounds natural. I don't have a problem with it. But that is an option too. Maybe you've got some really specific things you're trying to do. You can tune, check this out. You can tune the loop region to be a different pitch than your playthrough. So it'll play it through, and when it reaches the loop region, it'll play it at the regular pitch. Then when it loops, it'll change the pitch. So let's say we want it to be a whole step up. So if we play our note now, and it will loop at that new pitch. So that is cool. And you can set up a count. So if you were to use some scripting, you could tell the tune how to behave and the count how to behave, maybe using some sort of a sequencer type script. And you could create some arpeggios and things using this on just one note, using real-time sample transposition pitching. This is crazy, man. Like when you think about the amount of work they had to do to make this even a thing. But anyways, you could go to count. So you could say, I want it to repeat. 0 is I'll go through the loop indefinitely. And 5 is let's go to like 3. Let's do something smaller. So it'll loop through 3 times, and then it will continue on its way. This is extremely useful for drum loops that maybe you want it to repeat a specific pattern a certain way. And again, you can have multiple loops set up. So maybe you can go from loop to loop to loop, and you can even set up sequencer options in the performance view for the user interface that they can set up how they want the loop to behave. And you can just do all manner of specific things rhythmically. So if we hold down our note now it should continue on. And it does, and it releases. So that is really nice. We also have these options over here for loop mode. Now this is the last function, and then we're going to open up a drum loop and really quick just look at that. It'll be kind of short. So until end, it will loop through in one direction, and when it reaches the end, it will release, but it will continue. It will stay in the loop, but it will like follow the release phase of whatever you've got set. So we have a release phase. Let's turn our release phase like way up to make it kind of obvious that like it's the release phase. So if we hit our note, whoops, we're going to use the panic button now because it's just going to be such a long tail. But if we hold down our note, it stays inside, even though I've let go of the key. Then if we go to until end back and forth, it'll stay inside, but now it'll loop back and forth like so. So to reverse. So this could be really cool as well for some things. Maybe you've got a reverse percussive library that would sound cool. Piano sounds pretty cool when you do this. If you add, it takes loop regions though to make this stuff possible, because the starting point and the end point of your waveform may not be the best idea. So let's go ahead and check that one out. Now we're also getting clicks, as you can hear. And you see that it stays within our waveform. So if we use the X fade, I'm not sure what would happen if we put it beyond the start point, but let's check it out. We still have a fade, a problem, a click at the end. This, let's really quick check. It matches up. I'm not really sure how you could really fix the click at the end. If anyone's got an idea, let me know. Because that'd be a pretty cool option to be able to reverse. For percussive libraries, generally there'll be a moment of silence right at the very end. So reversing it would sound quite natural. In fact, you know what? We haven't talked about it yet, but zone envelopes may be an option. And envelopes down here. I bet an envelope of some sort could solve our problem. If I were to guess right now. We have an until release. So what does this do? Well, it does the same thing as until end, except for release continues on to the new sample material. So if we hold down our note, and when we let go, it will continue on, as you can see. And the ridiculously long decay doesn't matter because the sample ends. So that is nifty. Until release, back and forth, that's what these two little arrows are. It does the same thing as until end, except for it continues on. Yeah. Oh, it still clicks on this side too. Huh. I'd have to think about this one. Then we have one shot. One shot pretty much bypasses the loop, and you play it and it will go right through. This is useful for drum samples that should just be a one shot. So if you click a note, bang, you click it, and it's supposed to trigger the entire sample. Like for a drum loop, let's say you click a note for your bass drum, but you only hold it down for like a split second. So you get like a like it doesn't play your whole loop because you've only held down it for so long. But if you use one shot, it'll trigger the entire loop regardless of how long you held down that key for. So that is what these are. That's what all these different options are. If you add other loops along the way, one shot will not affect those loops. It'll only affect the loop that you're using. So that is what these things are. And that's what they do. I hope you discovered some things you could find useful. Let's open up a drum pattern. So let's close this. Save changes instrument. No way, Jose. And let's just open up. That sounds superb. And we'll go back to our wave editor. And we're going to turn grid on. We're going to go to auto. Even though all these things are at 128. So 128 will always do it for me. It's always going to be perfect. But if I go to auto, because of the post-processing, I can detect transients and things. You see it just moved. Because I moved where the transient was, it's actually a little more accurate now where that should be at. So anyways, that was from the previous tutorial. If we go to our loop settings now, though, we turn on a loop. And when we try to select the length, if it will let me select my loop, it will stay within, it will snap between our markers, the nearest markers. And you can't do nothing about it. That's just the way it's going to behave. If you know a way to make it so that it does not snap to the grid, drop it in the comments because that could be pretty useful, I suppose. But now if we turn the backwards, back and forth, and we play a note, and we can even go up, maybe we want that to repeat 4 times, and then we want a second loop to repeat this section twice, but we want it to just play through it regular like, and then we just wanted to play through the rest of our sample, and so that would work just fine. Check it out. Check it out. Oh, it ends. Well, that was unexpected. We're gonna have to go through until end. Apparently reversal will not do that for us. So it'll work like that. I guess on the end, if you have it going on the reverse, it won't work. So if we go to until, end, back and forth, we're probably going to need to use an odd number like 3 for this to work. That's so strange. I did not expect to find that out. If anyone has a solution for even numbers where it ends at the beginning of an envelope, I wonder if we keep this one on until end and we just repeat it twice, and then we go to our loop 2, we make it back and forth, but we keep it even. So it should end this way. So ideally, it'll go through a few times, come back, go 1, 2, and then keep going this way and end at the start of our waveform. Let's see what happens. It totally did. Oh my gosh. So that is how that behaves. I did not expect to find that out. If anyone knows a solution, maybe, I guess you'd have to send up another loop to go backwards. Well, that's strange. We're gonna talk about making loops play on their own as well too, so that you have notes that are just this loop and just that loop. But that is so strange. Wow, that's cool. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Any cool discoveries, drop those in the comments. Check out my music on composinggloves.com and on this YouTube channel. I appreciate any support I can get. And have a blessed day.